This May, the entertainment world said goodbye to 15 remarkable actors, from beloved legends to rising talents gone too soon. They brought stories to life and touched millions with their craft. Let's honor their names, their legacy, and the light they leave behind. You didn't have to know his name, you just had to hear Norm, and instantly you knew George Wendt had arrived. For 11 years on Cheers, Wendt was the lovable everyman who parked himself on the same bar stool and made millions laugh. But George was more than Norm Peterson. He was a seasoned Chicago actor with deep roots in improv, a veteran of the Second City, and a performer who brought warmth, humor, and quiet insight to every role he touched. Beyond the sitcom, Wendt had a varied career, appearing in theater productions, voiceover work, and countless guest spots. But his humility never changed. Co-stars remembered him as generous, down-to-earth, and genuinely uninterested in the trappings of fame. He lived his life with humor and heart, much like the characters he played. In a time when celebrity often feels distant or curated, George Wendt felt real, approachable, like the kind of guy you could actually share a beer with. His passing leaves an empty stool at the Barand, an even bigger void in our hearts. Joe Don Baker was the kind of actor you didn't forget. With his Texas roots and signature drawl, he exuded an authentic grit that made him a natural fit for tough guy roles, but there was always more beneath the surface. He first grabbed attention with Walking Tall in 1973, where his portrayal of Sheriff Buford Pusser became an enduring symbol of raw justice. Over the decades, he appeared in everything from intense crime dramas like Edge of Darkness to blockbuster James Bond films, where he played both villain and ally with equal flair. Off-camera, Baker was a quiet, introspective man. He never chased the limelight, preferring crossword puzzles to red carpets and country ballads to big city glitz. Those close to him speak of his sharp wit, his love for stray cats, and his surprisingly gentle nature. To fans, he was a cult legend. To fellow actors, a generous collaborator. And to Hollywood, a reminder that stardom doesn't always shout, it can speak in gravelly tones and subtle performances that stick with you for a lifetime. For generations of television viewers, Loretta Swit will always be remembered as Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihanty, smart, no-nonsense nurse with a heart on MASH. But Loretta Swit redefined the role and shattered expectations. What started as a one-note caricature blossomed, under her guidance, into a nuanced, independent, and deeply human character. Her Emmy-winning performance helped push MASH from comedy into poignant social commentary, and Swit became a feminist icon in the process. But her impact didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. Off-screen, she was a lifelong advocate for animal rights, working tirelessly to support shelters and anti-cruelty legislation. She also spoke up for women in Hollywood long before it was fashionable to do so. Swit once said, "Being kind is not a role you play, it's a choice you make every day." That sentiment guided her life and legacy. With her passing, the world didn't just lose an actress, we lost a fighter, a nurturer, and a woman of unshakable principle. Nina Grabeshkova was a living archive of Soviet and Russian cinema, luminous actress whose work spanned eras, ideologies, and generations. Over the course of a remarkable career, she appeared in more than 80 films, many of which have become cultural landmarks in Russia. Her grace on screen was matched by her quiet strength off it. Grabeshkova never courted fame, yet her face was known across the country. Whether in drama or comedy, she embodied dignity, patience, and the unyielding resolve of the Russian spirit. She was also a beloved figure in the theater world, and her contributions to the arts were recognized with Lifetime Achievement Awards and the love of millions. In her final days, she was surrounded by family, and her death was marked with national mourning. The Russian press called her a national treasure who never chased fame-only excellence. Nina Grabeshkova didn't just act in Russian cinema, she helped define it. Peter Kwong was not just an actor, he was a pioneer, a martial artist, and a cultural bridge builder. To many, he will always be remembered as the wise, quick-witted warrior in Big Trouble in Little China or the mystical guardian in The Golden Child, but his contributions went far beyond the screen. For decades, Kwong was a fierce advocate for Asian representation in American film and television. He worked behind the scenes to push for better roles, more authentic narratives, and the dismantling of stereotypes. He also trained young actors in stage combat and martial arts, mentoring a new generation to carry forward his passion and integrity. Peter remained active in cultural diplomacy until his final days, working with arts organizations across Asia and the US to promote understanding through performance. His death is not just a loss to Hollywood, it's a loss to the global arts community. His legacy is one of strength, discipline, and unwavering pride in his heritage. The British stage dimmed with the passing of Gone Granger, a gentleman of the theatre whose career spanned over 6 decades. Known for his impeccable craftsmanship, Granger was a mainstay at the Royal National Theatre, where he breathed new life into classics by Shakespeare, Harold Pinter, and Anton Chekhov. His presence on stage was commanding yet graceful, always rooted in truth. Audiences could sense his reverence for the art form, and fellow actors described working with him as a masterclass in humility and dedication. Though he made appearances in British television dramas and films, the footlights of the theatre remained his true home. He often spoke of the sacredness of live performance, its immediacy, its intimacy. His marriage to acclaimed actress Zoe Wanamaker was not just a personal union, but a brilliant artistic partnership. They shared a profound understanding of character, language, and the emotional weight of storytelling. In a world that increasingly favors speed and spectacle, Gone Granger represented something rare and enduring: quiet excellence, dignity in craft, and the soul of a true thespian. His legacy will echo through the boards of British theatre for generations to come. When Tsotsi won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 2006, it was Presley Chweneyagae's haunting performance that captivated global audiences. With minimal dialogue and profound emotion, he portrayed a young criminal's journey toward redemption, a role that made him an international sensation overnight. But Presley didn't let fame define him. He remained grounded in his South African roots, using his platform to uplift others. He became a mentor, founding youth programs that combined arts education with social justice, hoping to help the next generation find purpose and passion through storytelling. His death at just 40 years old stunned a continent and sent ripples through the global film community. Colleagues described him as soft-spoken, generous, and committed to using his fame for good. In an industry obsessed with image, Presley Chweneyagae led with substance. His voice may be gone, but the stories he helped tell and the lives he inspired will echo for years to come. For decades, Musa Kofoe was the soul of West African commedia, master of laughter, who used wit not just to entertain, but to enlighten. With his sharp sense of timing and boundless creativity, Kofo could hold a crowd in the palm of his hand, delivering punchlines that often carried powerful messages about politics, class, and tradition. His humor never punched down. It uplifted, challenged, and reflected the complexity of Guinean life. Beyond the stage, he was a gifted playwright whose scripts are now part of the curriculum at national arts academies. Kofoe championed the idea that comedy was more than frivolous. It was a cultural weapon, a tool for change. Younger generations revered him as a pioneer, and audiences across West Africa considered him family. His passing marks more than the loss of a performer. It is the end of a golden era in African satire. But his legacy lives on in every joke that tells the truth and every stage that dares to speak it. Vasily Funtikov never sought the international spotlight, but within Russia, he was revered for his intense and deeply felt performances. From the brooding introspection of Tuning Fork to the emotional weight of The Sisters' Liberty, Funtikov brought gravitas to every role he inhabited. His screen presence was both commanding and understated hallmarks of a true character actor. Known among peers as a man of discipline and quiet generosity, Funtakov was the kind of actor who elevated everyone around him. Off-camera, he was humble to a fault, often mentoring young actors and encouraging them to find their truth in the craft. He viewed acting not as a path to celebrity, but as a form of spiritual work. Though he never became a global name, Vasily Funtakov leaves behind a legacy embedded deeply in the heart of Russian storytelling. His absence is profoundly felt in the studios and rehearsal rooms where he once inspired so many. Choi Jung-woo was a constant, comforting presence on Korean television for decades. His expressive eyes, warm smile, and ability to shift effortlessly between comedy and drama made him one of the most respected and beloved character actors in South Korea. From City Hunter to Dr. Stranger to Like a Virgin, Choi brought emotional truth to every scene, often saying more in a look than others could in pages of dialogue. Off-screen, he was widely known as a mentor to a new generation of Korean actors. He believed in the power of patience, study, and heartened. He modeled all three. Younger stars credited him with guiding them not only through scenes, but through the challenges of celebrity and artistry in a rapidly changing industry. In a poignant twist, his final television role aired just weeks before his passing. Fans now watch it as a farewell, a quiet, graceful goodbye from a man who gave them so much. Choi Jung-woo didn't just act, lingered in our hearts. Red Sternberg was a teen heartthrob in the Philippines during the 1990s, rising to fame through the hit youth-oriented series TGIS, where he captured a generation's imagination. With his magnetic smile and natural charm, Red was a staple of Filipino pop culture. But unlike many teen stars, he quietly stepped away from the limelight to seek a different kind of fulfillment. After relocating to the United States, Sternberg shifted careers, building a life in hospitality and hotel management. Though far from the cameras, he never lost his love for the Filipineser, his fans. Friends remember him as warm, grounded, and always willing to reminisce about his acting days with pride and humor. His sudden passing from a heart attack at just 50 left friends and fans stunned. The boy who once lit up Saturday nights on Philippine television is gone, but the memories he created will never fade. Red Sternberg remains a cherished part of a cultural moment that lives on in reruns, reunions, and the hearts of those who grew up watching him. Steve Inwood was a brooding, enigmatic presence on screen during the late 1970s and early 80s, capturing the angst and complexity of urban America with performances that still resonate today. Whether playing the intense Francois Lafette in Fame, the morally torn DA in Prince of the City, or the conflicted antagonist in Staying Alive, Inwood brought a simmering emotional depth to his roles. While he eventually stepped away from the limelight, choosing privacy over public life, his early work has found renewed appreciation among film students and independent filmmakers. They study him not only for his technique, but for the authenticity he brought to every character, never overacting, always searching for truth. Inwood's retreat from Hollywood only deepened the mystique surrounding him, yet those who knew him personally recall a man of warmth, wit, and quiet reflection. Though his time in the spotlight was brief, Steve Inwood left an indelible markone of an artist who burned bright, then disappeared on his own terms. Devon Harjes had that rare ability to steal a scene with just a glance or a line delivered in his deep, gravelly voice. With piercing eyes and magnetic intensity, he was a standout in every project he joined, from his sinister yet human portrayal in Boardwalk Empire to the unflinching realism he brought to Daredevil and his recent role in Manifest. Despite not always being a headliner, Harjes had the kind of screen presence that made viewers remember him long after the credits rolled. He had just begun to explore new creative avenues, writing scripts and preparing to direct his first short film, a dream that, heartbreakingly, will never be realized. His passing at just 41 has left a deep void in the world of gritty, character-driven storytelling. Fans and colleagues alike have expressed their sorrow at the loss of an actor who was just beginning to evolve into a multi-dimensional artist. Devon Harjess's talent was undeniable, his journey unfinished, and his legacy still unfolding. Charlie Scalise brought blue-collar America to life with depth, humor, and grit. Whether playing Horseface on The Wire or Coach Molinaro on The Sopranos, he portrayed working-class characters not as clichés, but as fully human-flawed, funny, and fiercely loyal. Scalise was a longtime fixture in the New York theater scene, where he honed his craft on the stage before making his mark on television. He believed in the nobility of everyday people and often said that storytelling was about dignifying the ordinary. His characters always carried that belief. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family. Friends remember him as a generous colleague and loving husband and father. While he may not have been a household name, Charlie Scalise was the kind of actor who made everything better every scene, every show, every set. He gave truth to the unsung, and for that, he will be deeply missed. Taina Elg was elegance personified. A former ballet dancer from Finland, she glided effortlessly from stage to screen, capturing hearts across continents. She won a Golden Globe for her performance in Les Girls, 1957, transitioned to acclaimed roles on Broadway and American television. She carried herself with poise and grace throughout her long career, always crediting her Finnish upbringing for her discipline, humility, and artistry. On Broadway, she lit up the stage with her charisma in Nine, Death Trap, and The Cherry Orchard. Even into her later years, she continued to teach, mentor, and inspire young performers. Taina lived a life rich in creativity and dignity. She never chased stardom. Instead, she nurtured her art with patience and pride. She passed away peacefully, leaving behind a legacy that spanned ballet, Hollywood, and the great American stage. Gene Wilder brought whimsy to the world when we needed it most. In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, he became the soft-spoken, enigmatic guide through a land of dreams, simultaneously sweet and a little scary, eccentric, but never unkind. It was a performance that defined childhoods, captured imaginations, and left a cultural imprint that will never fade. But Wilder was far more than a top-hatted candy maker. He was a brilliant comedic force in Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and The Producers, often partnering with his dear friend Richard Pryor. His comedic timing was surgical, his expressions deeply nuanced. Behind the laughter, however, Gene knew pain. He lost his wife, Gilda Radner, to ovarian cancer in 1989. A loss that left him shattered, but galvanized his involvement in cancer advocacy. Years later, he would survive a battle of his own with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which he bravely overcame. In the final years of his life, Wilder was quietly diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. True to his nature, he chose to keep his illness private. His family later revealed he didn't want the world, especially children who loved Willy Wonka, see him in decline. He didn't want the magic to fade. Gene Wilder died peacefully in 2016, listening to his favorite song, Ella Fitzgerald's Somewhere Over the Rainbow, with his family by his side. His life was a gift wrapped in humor, tenderness, and a commitment to make the world a little more joyful. And in the end, that's exactly what he did. Sir John Hurt was a chameleon, an actor who disappeared into his roles with an ease that defied logic. With his weathered face and unmistakable voice by turns gravelly and delicate, he delivered performances that lingered long after the credits rolled. In The Elephant Man, he turned disfigurement into dignity. In Midnight Express, he portrayed suffering with raw intensity. In Harry Potter, as the wise wand-maker Ollivander, he brought gravitas to a generation of young fans. In 2015, Hurt publicly announced he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, one of the most aggressive and unforgiving forms of the disease. But true to his craft and character, he refused to let it define him. "I am undergoing treatment and am more than optimistic about a satisfactory outcome," he said at the time. And then, like the consummate actor he was, he went right back to work. Even in his final years, Hurt continued to act in film and television, giving his audience the same commitment he always had. He worked through fatigue, through treatment, through pain, because storytelling was his lifeblood. His passing in early 2017 marked the end of an era, one of subtlety, intelligence, and enduring artistry. Sir John Hurt showed us that aging could be graceful, that suffering could be noble, and that acting, when done with soul, could be eternal. He didn't just perform, he elevated. Chadwick Boseman was not merely a Hollywood star, he was a quiet revolutionary. Known to the world as King T'Challa in Black Panther, Chadwick became the face of a movement that transcended cinema, a movement of cultural pride, black excellence, and artistic integrity. But what many didn't know, what he chose to keep hidden from public view, was that he had been battling stage 3 colon cancer since 2016, which progressed to stage 4 over the years. During that time, he filmed Marshall, Da 5 Bloods, 21 Bridges, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and of course, Black Panther. These were not just performances, they were acts of defiance against the fragility of life and the limitations of illness. On film sets, he endured surgeries, chemotherapy, and fatigue, yet never once complained. He visited children with cancer while secretly fighting his own battle. His physical transformation in his final years sparked public concern, but he never explained. In truth, he had made a decision to inspire, not to be pitied. When the world learned of his death in August 2020, it felt like a thunderclap of grief. A man we thought was invincible had been silently fading away. And yet, what he left behind was nothing short of eternal. He redefined what it means to be a hero on screen and off. Chadwick's life was about purpose. He once said, "When you live in your purpose, you're already immortal." His legacy will live not just in films, but in the lives of those who found strength in his silence, dignity in his determination, and power in his presence. Farrah Fawcett was more than just an American beauty, she was a cultural phenomenon. With her feathered blonde hair, dazzling smile, and radiant charisma, she became the face of the 1970s and one of the original angels in Charlie's Angels. Her iconic red swimsuit poster sold over 12 million copies and cemented her status as a global sex symbol. But Farrah was never content to be just a pretty face. Behind the glamour was an artist deeply committed to her craft, a woman who craved substance in a world that often reduced her to style. Her battle with anal cancer, diagnosed in 2006, exposed an entirely different side of Farrah Warrior. She chose to publicly document her fight in the deeply emotional NBC documentary Farrah's Story, which she co-produced. The film pulled back the curtain on the harrowing treatments, the emotional toll, and the fear that cancer brings. It also revealed her astonishing strength and unwavering dignity. Even in pain, Farrah remained fiercely human-loving, vulnerable, and raw. She endured invasive surgeries, including one in Germany, and grueling rounds of chemotherapy. Through it all, she never stopped fighting, not just for her life, but for awareness. Anal cancer was a taboo subject. Farrah shattered that silence. In her final years, she was no longer just a pop icon, she was a voice for the voiceless. When she passed away in June 2009, her death was overshadowed by the death of Michael Jackson on the same day. Yet for those who followed her journey, her legacy was profound. Farrah taught the world how to face death with courage and to live even in the face of suffering with truth. Patrick Swayze was the very definition of charisma. With his rugged good looks, magnetic energy, and dancer's grace, he stole hearts in Dirty Dancing, brought tears in Ghost, and showed grit in Point Break. He wasn't just a leading man, he was a cultural moment. But beyond the movie star exterior was a man who valued love, family, and authenticity above fame. In early 2008, Patrick was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, one of the most aggressive and unforgiving forms of the disease. Despite the bleak prognosis, he chose to live as fully as possible. While undergoing treatment, he took on the lead role in the gritty television series The Beast, a demanding performance that he delivered with unwavering commitment. He refused painkillers on set so his mind would stay sharp. His crew and co-stars were in awe of his stamina, knowing every day he showed up was a triumph over unimaginable pain. He was candid in interviews, refusing to sugarcoat his reality. "I'm scared," he once said. "Yeah, I'm scared. I don't want to die." And yet, his vulnerability never turned to despair. He and his wife of 34 years, Lisa Nemi, became a symbol of enduring love in Hollywood, their devotion to one another heartbreakingly visible in the final months. Patrick's death in September 2009 sent waves of sorrow across the world, but his life continues to inspire. He was a fighter, a romantic, and a deeply soulful man. He reminded us that real strength lies in Graceland, that even in the face of death we can dance. Audrey Hepburn was more than a screen legend. She was the embodiment of grace, inside and out. With her doe eyes, delicate frame, and quiet charm, she became an icon in classics like Breakfast at Tiffany's, Roman Holiday, and My Fair Lady. But it was the life she led after Hollywood that defined her true legacy. After stepping back from acting in the late 1960s, Audrey devoted herself to humanitarian work, becoming a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador in the 1980s. She traveled to famine and war-ravaged corners of the globe: Ethiopia, Somalia, Bangladesh, and beyond, not for photo ops, but to hold dying children in her arms, to bear witness, and to advocate for those without a voice. Her compassion was boundless, and her courage unwavering. In 1992, Audrey was diagnosed with a rare abdominal cancer called pseudomyxoma peritone, a slow-growing but devastating disease. Even as her health declined, she continued working for UNICEF, insisting on one final mission to Somalia during a brutal famine. She returned home exhausted, and only then did the world begin to realize the depth of her private suffering. She died peacefully in her Swiss home in January 1993, surrounded by family and the flowers she loved. Her final days were filled with the same grace that marked her entire life. Audrey Hepburn was not just a star of the silver screen, she was a beacon of compassion, humility, and quiet strength. Her beauty was never just physical, it was the kind that healed others, and that beauty will never fade. Dustin Diamond will forever be remembered as Samuel Screech Powers, the nerdy, lovable sidekick from Saved by the Bell. For millions of 90s kids, he was a constant presence on Saturday mornings, delivering zany lines and slapstick charm with wide-eyed sincerity. But life after fame wasn't easy for Dustin. Struggles with finances, legal troubles, and typecasting often clouded his adult years. Still, beneath the controversy was someone who never stopped trying to find his footing in the world. In early 2021, Dustin revealed he had been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. The news was a shock both to fans and to those close to him. Just weeks after the diagnosis, he passed away quietly, surrounded by loved ones. He was only 44. His death prompted a wave of public sympathy and a reassessment of his legacy. He grew up under the blinding spotlight of early fame and struggled to navigate life beyond it. Many of his former co-stars paid tribute, remembering his humor, his timing, and the indelible mark he left on their lives. Though his time was short, Dustin Diamond gave a generation laughter. And in the end, he reminded us all that behind every punchline is a person flawed, complex, and worthy of compassion. Bill Paxton was the kind of actor who made you feel like you knew him. Whether he was chasing storms in Twister, navigating space disasters in Apollo 13, or fighting aliens in Aliens, he brought an unmistakable authenticity to every role. There was a natural warmth to Hima's sincerity that made even his larger-than-life characters feel grounded, real, and relatable. In February 2017, the world was blindsided by the news of Bill's sudden death. He had undergone heart surgery to correct a damaged valve, but complications led to a fatal stroke just 11 days later. Many fans didn't know that Paxton had long battled underlying health issues, including rheumatic fever as a child and a history of cancer in earlier years. But he rarely spoke of either, preferred to focus on his work and his family. His loss shook Hollywood. Tributes came flooding in not just from fellow actors, but from directors, crews, and fans who had all been touched by his generosity and humility. James Cameron, who had cast him multiple times, called him one of the greatest guys you'd ever want to meet. On and off set, Paxton was a team player, a loving husband and father, and someone who never lost touch with his Texas roots. Bill Paxton didn't demand the spotlight, but he lit up every scene he was in. He was the definition of a working actor, dedicated, versatile, and beloved by all who knew him. His absence still stings, but his performances continue to comfort and entertain, just as he would have wanted. Steve McQueen, the king of cool, was a man who lived life on the edge, whether racing cars, flying planes, or stealing scenes on film. From Bullitt to The Great Escape, McQueen oozed effortless masculinity, rebellion, and charisma. But behind the sunglasses and tough guy exterior was a man constantly seeking deeper meaning, especially in the final chapter of his life. In the late 1970s, Steve was diagnosed with mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer of the lining of the lungs, often linked to asbestos exposure. He sought every option, conventional and alternative, to fight the disease. Desperate for a cure, he traveled to Mexico for unconventional treatments, including enzyme therapy and Laetrile, a controversial and banned drug in the US. Steve's cancer journey was not just a fight for survival, it was a quest for autonomy. Even in sickness, he refused to be passive. Sadly, the disease advanced too quickly. He died in November 1980 after undergoing surgery in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. He was only 50. Though he left too soon, McQueen's legacy has never dimmed. He remains a symbol of rugged independence, of cool that couldn't be manufactured. His off-screen battle with cancer added a layer of humanity to a man often seen as invincible. In the end, Steve McQueen lived and died in his own terms. Yvette Mimieux was the embodiment of 1960s screen allure, ethereal, intelligent, and slightly mysterious. She rose to fame with roles in The Time Machine, Light in the Piazza, and Where the Boys Are, capturing hearts with her wide-eyed vulnerability and quiet strength. Hollywood loved her, but Mimieux never fully gave herself over to the spotlight. Unlike many of her contemporaries, she maintained a fierce sense of independence and a clear boundary between public persona and private self. In the mid-1970s, she quietly stepped away from mainstream film, choosing instead to explore her passions outside the industry. She became a screenwriter, a painter, and a world traveler. Her intellectual hunger led her to study anthropology, and she became known in private circles as a brilliant conversationalist and a woman of great inner depth. She once said that she hated being typecast as the fragile blonde and longed to portray real women with complicated lives. When she passed away in January 2022 after a private battle with cancer, many were surprised to learn she had died at all. She had so thoroughly removed herself from the public eye. But to those who remembered her, especially fans of classic cinema, her passing marked the quiet end of a chapter filled with grace, poise, and quiet rebellion. Yvette Mimieux chose her own path, both in life and in death, and in doing so, she became more than a star, she became a symbol of self-possession. Sylvia Sims was British cinema royalty, a revered actress whose career spanned more than 7 decades and who worked alongside some of the most iconic names in film history. From early roles in post-war classics like Ice Cold and Alex and Victim, to her poignant performance as Margaret Thatcher's mother in The Queen, Sims was a master of nuance, emotion, and impeccable restraint. She brought dignity and quiet power to every performance, making her a mainstay in both classic and contemporary British storytelling. Her 1961 film Victim, in which she played the wife of a closeted gay man during a time when homosexuality was still criminalized in the UK, was groundbreaking, and so was she. Off-screen, she was thoughtful and fiercely articulate about the importance of tackling taboo subjects through art. She was unafraid to age in front of the camera, taking on grandmotherly roles in her later years that still carried emotional depth and a twinkle of wit. When Sims passed away in January 2023, after a private battle with cancer, the tributes poured in from actors, directors, and admirers across generations. Her death wasn't just the loss of an actress, it was the loss of a living bridge to a golden era of British filmmaking. For those who grew up watching her or had the honor of working with her, Sylvia Sims represented excellence without ego, a quiet legend who wore her brilliance lightly. Anne E. Todd was once a familiar face to moviegoers during the 1940s, appearing in films like How Green Was My Valley and Intermezzo. With her angelic face and precocious talent, she was one of Hollywood's many gifted child stars during the studio system's heyday. But unlike many child actors whose adult years were marred by disillusionment or tragedy, Anne chose a different path filled with education, creativity, and reinvention. After leaving the film industry as a young adult, Anne didn't cling to the spotlight. Instead, she pursued a rich academic life, earning advanced degrees and becoming a respected musicologist and university professor. Her focus on 18th-century music and her passion for teaching made her a cherished figure in academic circles. She also married and raised a family, striking a rare and admirable balance between her early fame and her intellectual pursuits. Anne E. Todd's passing in 2020 from cancer was a quiet one, reflecting the quiet grace with which she lived much of her adult life. But those who remembered her early screen work, or who were touched by her later contributions in the field of music history, saw her life as a remarkable tapestry. One that spanned the glitz of Golden Age Hollywood and the cerebral calm of academia. She proved that reinvention isn't just possible, it's powerful. Helen McCrory was the kind of actress who didn't just play a role, she inhabited it. Best known for her fierce portrayal of Polly Gray in Peaky Blinders and her elegant menace as Narcissa Malfoy in the Harry Potter films, she brought an unmatched gravitas to every performance. With her intense gaze and regal bearing, McCrory had a rare ability to shift seamlessly between power and vulnerability, often within the same scene. But behind her strength on screen was an even greater strength in real life. Diagnosed with breast cancer, Helen chose to keep her illness entirely private. Not even many of her closest colleagues knew she was sick. She continued working, continued raising her 2 children with husband Damian Lewis, and continued pouring her energy into charitable cause, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, when she helped raise millions for NHS workers through the Feed NHS initiative. Her death in April 2021 stunned the world. The loss felt personal, intimate, as if someone close had quietly slipped away. Damian Lewis's tribute described her as the meteor in our life, a woman who sparkled with wit, empathy, and brilliance. Her peers called her the best of the best, generous, honest, fearless. In a world that often rewards ego, Helen McCrory led with heart. She gave everything, including her last moments, with grace. Her artistry lives on, but so does the example she set of how to live fully, fiercely, and generously, even in the face of death. Robert Urich was the kind of actor who made you feel safe. Whether solving crimes in Vega Dollar, playing a private eye in Spencer, For Hire, or anchoring dramatic television movies and miniseries throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Urich brought a dependable, everyman charm to the screen. He was tall, strong-jawed, and always believable, an actor you could trust, who elevated everything he was in. In 1996, Urich was diagnosed with synovial sarcoma, a rare and aggressive form of cancer. Many assumed he would take a step back, but Urich leaned forward. He didn't just continue acting, he also became one of Hollywood's most outspoken cancer advocates. He spoke at hospitals, fundraisers, and cancer research summits, often while undergoing chemotherapy himself. His message was one of hope and endurance. You fight, you keep going, you don't give up. He starred in Love Boat, The Next Wave, and television movies. Even during his treatments, his work ethic unchanged. Off-screen, he and his wife, Heather Menzies Urich, founded the Robert Urich Foundation to fund cancer research and support families affected by the disease. His fight wasn't just personal, it was a mission. Robert Urich passed away in 2002, but his legacy continues through the lives he touched and the awareness he helped raise. He was more than an actor, he was a fighter with a purpose, and a man who chose hope, even in the darkest moments. Alexis Arquette was a firework brilliant, unapologetic, and dazzlingly bold. A member of the famous Arquette acting family, she made her own mark as a trailblazing transgender actress and activist long before Hollywood began to reckon with LGBTQ+ representation. Whether it was her electric role in The Wedding Singer, her cameo in Pulp Fiction, or her unforgettable presence in underground films and cabaret scenes, Alexis brought an explosive and unpredictable energy to every performance. But her life was more than performance, it was a political act. Coming out as a transgender woman in the early 2000s, Alexis faced public scrutiny, medical hardships, and professional challenges in an industry still hesitant to embrace trans actors. Yet she refused to be erased. She spoke candidly about identity, gender, and expression long before it was considered safe to do so. She also lived with HIV for many years, a fact she kept private until later in life, and which ultimately led to complications alongside leukemia. Her final months were spent with family, surrounded by love. Her siblings, including actors Patricia, Rosanna, and David Arquette, shared that she passed while listening to David Bowie's Starman, a fitting soundtrack for a soul who seemed to live slightly outside gravity. She was an artist, an advocate, and a radical force of nature. In death, Alexis became a symbol of everything Hollywood often overlooks: bravery without compromise, creativity without limits, and the power of being yourself even when the world resists. Her loss was felt deeply in both the LGBTQ+ and artistic communities, but her trailblazing life continues to inspire a generation of queer performers and storytellers. There's a certain kind of beauty that feels like a warm hug, comforting, genuine, and unforgettable. That's Julia Roberts. Her signature smile, wide, brilliant, and utterly disarming, has become one of the most iconic expressions in cinematic history. But it's not just her teeth or lips that define that smile. It's the joy, the life, the sincerity behind it. Julia's eyes glisten with mischief and kindness, capable of shifting from comedic sparkle to dramatic depth in an instant. Her features are not classically symmetrical, and that's part of what makes her so special. She feels real, accessible, yet elevated. Whether she's in a little black dress or barefoot on the beach, Julia radiates a kind of beauty that is rooted in self-assuredness. What makes her beauty endure isn't just how she looks, but how she makes us feel. Watching her on screen is like watching someone you know and love succeed. She's a blend of best friend and screen siren, and that rare balance gives her timeless charm. Audrey Hepburn wasn't simply beautiful, she was unforgettable in a way that transcended trends, cultures, and even time itself. Her beauty was like a melody, gentle, soulful, and eternally elegant. When people describe Audrey, they often mention her large, soulful eyes, those deep, expressive orbs that could convey heartbreak, hope, and tenderness all at once. They weren't just eyes, they were windows into a profoundly empathetic soul. Her delicate frame, swan-like neck, and refined posture gave her a near-balletic quality, poised and light, as though she barely touched the ground. But perhaps what made Audrey's beauty so rare was its quiet strength. She wasn't loud or demanding of attention. Instead, her elegance emerged through subtlety, a perfectly timed smile, the tilt of her head, the softness in her voice. Off-screen, Audrey's inner radiance became even more luminous. After retiring from acting, she dedicated her life to humanitarian work with UNICEF. Her compassion, humility, and sense of purpose became as legendary as her film roles. She showed the world that beauty doesn't age, it deepens. Hers was a beauty not meant to be possessed, but remembered like a dream that gently lingers long after waking. Angelina Jolie's beauty is not of this world, it's elemental, almost mythic in its intensity. Her razor-sharp cheekbones, full lips that seem perpetually poised between seduction and truth, and piercing almond eyes give her a look that's both predatory and poetic. She doesn't wear confidence, she is confidence. Angelina has the presence of a queen, an empress, or perhaps a warrior goddess. Her beauty commands, not pleads. And yet, for all its strength, there's a haunting vulnerability beneath the surface, the kind you glimpse only in fleeting moments, like a shadow behind glass. Whether she's striding across a battlefield in a film or cradling a child as a humanitarian, her beauty transcends vanity. It becomes a force, an energy that shifts the atmosphere. Angelina doesn't just walk into a room, she redefines the room. She is the embodiment of complexity, fierce yet maternal, sultry yet soulful. Her beauty isn't just admired, it's felt deeply, intensely, and for a lifetime. Kate Hudson's beauty is like summer, bright, spontaneous, and full of life. Her golden hair catches the sunlight with every movement, and her face, glowing with health and happiness, beams with vitality. There's a natural radiance to her, a California breeze that infuses everything she touches with joy. Her eyes twinkle with curiosity and laughter, while her smile is open, easy, and contagiously cheerful. Kate doesn't need to pose or perform to be beautiful, she simply is. Her casual elegance, often wrapped in flowy fabrics and breezy silhouettes, reflects a bohemian spirit that's as genuine as it is stylish. But behind the bubbly charm is a sharp mind and a grounded soul. She embodies the idea that true beauty is joyful, that when you feel good, you look extraordinary. Kate Hudson's glow is more than skin deep. It's a celebration of life itself. Jessica Alba's beauty is the kind that sneaks up on you, soft at first glance, but undeniably powerful. Her face is a lesson in harmony, warm brown eyes that speak with sincerity, a gentle smile that soothes, and skin that glows like morning light. She has the rare ability to appear polished and completely natural at once. What's most striking about Jessica is her effortless elegance. She doesn't try too hard. Her beauty isn't in drama or spectacle, it's in her quiet confidence and undeniable presence. Her style reflects this, too. Clean lines, fresh tones, and timeless grace. Beyond the surface, Jessica exudes intelligence and entrepreneurship, all while maintaining a sense of calm and approachability. Her beauty grows not just from her features, but from her values, her passions, and the authenticity she brings to every room. She's proof that grace, when rooted in substance, becomes unforgettable. Marilyn Monroe was the very embodiment of desire, not just because of her curves, her lips, or her walk, but because of the fire burning behind her eyes. There was a vulnerability to Marilyn that made her captivating. She didn't just smile, she seduced the camera. She didn't just pose, she bloomed under the gaze of millions while remaining, at her core, a fragile flower seeking affection and understanding. Her beauty wasn't flawless in the conventional sense. Instead, it was alive. Her platinum blonde hair wasn't merely a trademark, it was a crown. Her full lips weren't just sensual, they were expressive, often hiding unspoken fears or yearnings. Her body, celebrated endlessly for its curves, moved with a rhythm that seemed effortless, yet each glance, each wink, each whisper was part of an unspoken script that only she could deliver. What makes Marilyn's beauty endure is the contrast it carried. Behind the glitz, fame, and diamonds was a girl who read poetry, who longed to be taken seriously, who struggled with identity and mental health. In a world that wanted her to be a caricature, she remained heartbreakingly human. And perhaps that's why we still dream of her, because she was beauty, yes, but also a mirror of our own complexity. Scarlett Johansson is the kind of beauty that doesn't just catch your eye, it holds your gaze and dares you to look deeper. Her beauty is multidimensional. At first, you see her sensual features, the pouty lips, the smoky gaze, the soft golden skin, but stay a little longer, and you begin to sense something more potent beneath the surface. Her eyes, cool blue with hints of green, don't merely sparkle, they analyze, they suggest intelligence, self-awareness, even a challenge. Scarlett's beauty has evolved with her from ingenue to femme fatale to grounded, artistic mother, and each stage adds new layers. There is a European timelessness in her features, as though she belongs as much in a 1940s black and white noir as she does in a futuristic Marvel blockbuster. What makes her beauty unique is its complexity. It's not girl next door or runway goddess, it's both and more. She can be soft or commanding, approachable or untouchable. Her beauty doesn't fit into a box. Like her acting, it evolves, deepens, and redefines itself with every role she takes on and every red carpet she graces. Jennifer Lawrence is the embodiment of what it means to be naturally, unapologetically beautiful in a world obsessed with curation and control. With her radiant skin, luminous eyes, and effortless charisma, she seems to glow from the inside not because of makeup or lighting, but because of her genuine spirit. Her laugh, loud, unfiltered, and contagious, adds dimension to her looks. Her blue-gray eyes flicker between mischief and sincerity, reflecting a woman who's never afraid to speak her truth, no matter how messy or vulnerable. There's something liberating about her kind of beauty. She doesn't try to look perfect. She simply is. Jennifer's beauty challenges conventions. She doesn't play coy or mysterious. She's out there funny, clumsy, sarcastic, real, and that authenticity becomes magnetic. Whether she's in jeans and a t-shirt or a Dior gown, her light never dims. In fact, it reminds us that the most enduring kind of beauty isn't sculpted or filtered, it's honest. Emma Stone is the rare kind of beauty that draws you in slowly, not with fireworks, but with candlelight. Her signature red hair frames a face so expressive, it's as if her emotions are painted on with every passing thought. Her smile, half crooked, half glowing, radiates a joy that feels rare in an era of curated images. Her eyes are often her most memorable feature, wide, greenish, hazel, and perpetually sparkling with a joke, a secret, or an idea. She doesn't dazzle with perfection, she enchants with personality. Her beauty feels lived in, accessible, and warm, like a melody you hum long after the song ends. Emma's appeal comes not from fitting into a mold, but from breaking it. She blends old Hollywood glamour with quirky, modern charm, and it never feels forced. Her style is eclectic, her wit razor-sharp, and her presence always comforting. She's not just beautiful, she's unforgettable in the way only real people are. Zendaya doesn't just represent beauty, she redefines it. Her bone structure alone is worthy of study. Chiseled jawline, sky-high cheekbones, glowing skin that seems to change with the light. But her physical beauty is just the entry point. What captivates is her power, quiet, self-possessed, and deeply intentional. Her style is boundary-breaking. One day she's wearing a metallic futuristic gown at the Met Gala. The next, she's makeup-free in sweats, still radiant. She adapts, reinvents, and owns every version of herself. Her gaze is confident and grounded, the kind of look that says she's seen the world and knows exactly how to move through it. Zendaya is more than a pretty face. She's a cultural force, a role model, an advocate. Her beauty is informed by her intellect, her strength, and her deep understanding of identity and visibility. She doesn't follow trends, she makes them. Her beauty is not just admired, it's empowering. Anne Hathaway possesses a beauty that feels as though it belongs in both modern-day Hollywood and the pages of a 19th-century novel. Her features, delicate yet pronounced, give her the air of an old-world heroine. The wide, almond-shaped eyes that glimmer with sensitivity and strength, the high forehead that accentuates her expressive brows, and the soft, sculpted jawline that lends her face both structure and grace. There's something almost regal in the way Anne moves, a gentle elegance that doesn't ask for attention, but naturally draws it. Her beauty is not loud or ostentatious. It's in the subtle details, the way her smile begins with her eyes before reaching her lips, the calming cadence of her voice, the emotional transparency of her expressions. On red carpets, she glows in tailored gowns like a classic film star, while off-screen, she exudes warmth and relatability. What makes Anne Hathaway's beauty unforgettable is its sincerity. Whether she's playing a fantasy princess or a struggling artist, her presence radiates authenticity. She reminds us that grace isn't just how you look, it's how you carry yourself in every season of life. Natalie Portman is the perfect embodiment of how intelligence and physical beauty can exist not just side by side, but as one harmonious force. Her face is a portrait of balance, high cheekbones, softly curved lips, and eyes that seem to speak before she does. But it's what those eyes convey, a kind of quiet strength and inner clarity that truly mesmerizes. There's a serenity to Natalie's appearance. Her luminous porcelain skin gives her a youthful glow, while her elegant bone structure offers the kind of timelessness seen in classic paintings. Yet beneath that refined surface is a mind that's razor-sharp, a Harvard graduate, an advocate, a director, and that mental depth is part of her magnetism. Natalie doesn't rely on excess to captivate. Her beauty lies in restraint. She can walk into a room with minimal makeup, hair softly pinned, and still turn every head not because she demands attention, but because she owns her space. Her aura says, "I know who I am." And that kind of quiet confidence is one of the rarest and most beautiful traits of all. Halle Berry's beauty is the kind that commands attention from the moment she enters the frame. Her face is sculpted like fine art, high cheekbones, expressive brows, and glowing bronze skin that catches the light like liquid gold. Her eyes, deep, almond-shaped, and rich with emotion, can shift effortlessly from gentle to intense, playful to piercing, always hinting at a deeper story beneath the surface. What sets Halle apart isn't just her physical radiance, but her strength, her unapologetic boldness. She's never played it safe, whether in fashion, career choices, or personal expression. And that daring spirit infuses her beauty with electricity. Every glance, every gesture feels purposeful and fierce. Yet there's softness too, a maternal gentleness in her smile, a vulnerability she's unafraid to show. Halle Berry is not just beautiful, she's complex, radiant, real. She represents a kind of beauty that refuses to be tamed, strong enough to endure, soft enough to connect. Megan Fox's beauty is magnetic, the kind that stops conversations and sparks intrigue. With eyes as sharp as crystal daggers and lips that curve with an almost mythic allure, she embodies a brand of sensuality that's bold, unapologetic, and unforgettable. Her face, nearly symmetrical, with dramatic cheekbones and a defined jawline, has a cinematic intensity that few possess. Her black hair contrasts perfectly with her fair skin, adding to her striking aura a blend of old Hollywood bombshell and modern femme fatale. But beyond the surface lies a kind of controlled rebellion. Megan's look, while glamorous, never feels too polished or artificial. There's a rawness to her, a "don't mess with me" confidence that makes her beauty all the more captivating. She doesn't conform to industry expectations, she challenges them. She doesn't soften her edges, she sharpens them. And yet, in moments of vulnerability or candor, Megan Fox reveals a thoughtful, even philosophical side that deepens her appeal. She reminds us that fierce femininity doesn't require permission, it defines its own rules.